for this. The lab portion, if you come down here to week 3, so you're going to have the videos and such for the different modules. Those are just like I would have had this week during the classroom. So go ahead and watch those videos. What I wanted to cover today was making sure you guys had your lab access. So you should see a Windows lab and a Linux lab. And then there'll be up a list of these Linux or Windows labs, either one. So when you click on one of those, it's going to kick you out to the NETLAB system. If you are using NETLAB for another class or something concurrently with this, you may have to do this in an incognito window. Sometimes it'll throw issues, but it shouldn't be an issue if you go through there. Once this pops up, if you click on new lab reservation and say one for myself, and then there's a total of 12 pods out here. So if you just click off to the right, you can see that there's at least 12 pods, and I can always add more if we need to. You're going to see other ones pop up over here that students have made reservations on. If you click right below the red line, and then you can go ahead and add your end time here. I encourage you to go ahead and set these for at least an hour and a half when you go to do your reservations. You can do them even longer if you choose to. And I do give you like 8 extensions too, so there should be plenty of time to go through your labs. If you click on that, you should see one here. I see 2 because I'm the instructor, and so I see everybody's reservations. But if you click on your inner lab, again, most of you have used NETLAB before at this point, but you'll see the topology that deals with this specific lab. So in this lab, you're just dealing with the Windows client. If you click on content, you can break this out in a separate tab. You're going to want to follow these as your instructions on what you're doing in the lab, status, and then the actual virtual machine. Again, you can break this out if you want to have dual monitors or such. It's kind of handy to watch between the two of those. But you'll go through this lab process manual, and through here, it'll ask you questions in here. I'm not asking for you to fill those out. I'm just asking you to go through these steps. The system itself will automatically send me a grade back based on how much time you spend in the lab, what you clicked on, that kind of stuff. It'll send me back a grade. Now note, when that grade comes back to the Blackboard, it'll show up in your grade book. If you make another reservation for that lab and say you just want to go back and check on something, it'll end up replacing the score with the new score. So if you go into a lab and then just immediately end it, it'll probably give you a score of 0. Don't worry about that. You'll end up getting the whole points later on. I'll go back and clean all that up. It's just a known issue. Yes. Yep. And so there, again, is a lot of labs this week. You got 6 Windows labs, and I think there's about the same in Linux labs. 5 Linux labs. So 11 labs. The due date is set for Sunday. You don't have to have them in by Sunday. I sent you an announcement there. This is one of the few weeks you'll have this many labs. So most labs weeks you'll have 1 to 4 maybe max. This one just happens to have 11. There's just a lot of content there. So I'm not worried about due dates. Just do them when you can, and then get them submitted in there. It's important you do those because when it comes to the skills exam, it's going to be important that you understand how to move and navigate through the different operating systems. Does anybody have any questions over lab access?
Does it matter if other students reserve a time on top of yours as well?
They shouldn't be able to reserve a time over the top of yours. So there's 12 pods in there, and you can use whatever pod is available. Doesn't matter. And you can see in some of these where they had reserved ahead of time. So for example, you have this reservation down here. You can just always click this right arrow, and there should be way more pods available over here as you scroll through.
Do they reset for each lab?
Yeah, so when you're done with that lab, for example, once I'm in here, you would want to go ahead and end this reservation. And then once you end that reservation, you can make a reservation for the next lab. And if you ever have a point where we're seeing a lot of contention for lab pods, I can spin off more pods. That's not an issue. Generally with 12 pods, that services hundreds of students because you can use these 24/7, 365, and not everybody gets on at 5 o'clock. It would take 5 12 students at 5 o'clock to show up and do a lab in order for there not to be any pods available, which is pretty rare. I think there's only maybe 20 in the class. So
Are
Then
the labs open book? Like, are we allowed to refer to our notes?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, all the labs, you can do the labs as many times as you want. It does not bother me. The point is that you get the skills that are in the labs. So again, you can fill those labs out, but you don't have to turn those in by any means. So if you answer the questions, I encourage you to fill those out yourself, just so you can make sure that you're keeping track of it. But I won't grade those individual handwritten portions. No, if you want to pull that out, the easiest way to do that is if you're in this NETLAB environment like you see here, and you go to schedule a lab for yourself, you should just see the 2020F cyber operations, the associates, and then you will see the drop down here and you can preview the lab and that will pull the PDF out. Or you can make a lab reservation and download the PDF that way if you want to. Either way is acceptable.
And Jason, just to verify the written document that we're supposed to fill out as we do the lab, are you wanting us to submit that?
No.
Okay.
Nope. You can fill that out if you want as you go along, but ultimately in the past I did that. I had everybody turn in those Word documents or PDF documents. It's a lot of extra grading on my side, and it's a lot of extra time on your side. What really matters is the content in the lab, right?
Okay.
So I used to put a really heavy weight on that in the class, and then there was a lot of cheating going on, and then I had to ban everybody with that with zeros and such. What I found is you'll either do the lab or you won't on your own, because when you get to the skills lab, that's what's worth more, and that's what's gonna be challenging to you. Some of these labs are going to be things that you already know, so you're just going to burn through them. Some will take 10, 15 minutes. Some may take an hour and a half, excuse me, an hour and a half later down the road. It's just those first 3 labs you guys did where you filled out the Word document. Those will be the only ones. From here on out, everything will be NETLAB based. And there will not be labs every week. As a matter of fact, I think there's at least 3 or 4 weeks where there's no labs at all. So anybody have any questions on how to do the labs and the lab content? Thanks for those questions, Mallory. Appreciate it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end the recording.